Welcome in everyone, this is Sean with MTG 808 Jr. and today we're going to do a deck tech, kind of going back to the basics here on Mono Red Fling. Alright, it doesn't get much more basic than a good old Mono Red aggro deck. But before we jump into that deck tech, just want to make sure everyone knows about our standard Pauper Youth Championship Scholarship Tournament happening this May. $750 or more in scholarship will be awarded as prizes, $500 to first, $250 to second. So hope everyone on Oahu who plays standard Pauper knows about this, is stoked about it, and we will see you at our championship scholarship tournament to end the school year. And if you want to get good at standard Pauper, you are in the right place, because today we are going to be talking about a standard Pauper deck tech. So this is Mono Red Fling. This text version of the deck will be available in a link in the description, but we are going to jump over here to Magic Online to get a nice visual view. This Mono Red deck is inspired by Travis Wu, former Magic Pro and full-time good guy. He is a YouTuber, so you can check him out. He generates Magic content as well as other content. Travis Wu. So he made this deck when we first started making standard Pauper decks, and it was basically just all cards from Amonkhet. Amonkhet, Hour of Devastation had just come out, and we had a box full of commons in front of us, and he built the core of this deck. I've made a couple of changes to it, but yeah, the deck was very strong with just cards from Amonkhet, so I imagine that it only gets stronger with some new and older cards added in. Basically, I call it Mono Red Fling. We have another Mono Red deck that we've featured here on the channel that was kind of more artifact focused, but today's deck is kind of more revolving around this card right here, Fling. As an additional cost to cast Fling, you sacrifice a creature, and Fling deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature or player. Right? So ideally, you want to be casting this, sacrificing a guy with a ton of power to kill your opponent, right? It's a huge cost to sacrifice a creature to play a spell, but if you're killing your opponent with it, then, you know, no cost is too great. Sometimes you might be killing a creature with this, in which case, you know, you're going to be at a slight disadvantage in terms of cards, because you sacrificed a creature and cast Fling, so that's two cards that you're paying to kill one of their creatures. So you can kill a creature with this in a pinch, but most of the time you want to be killing your opponent with this. So this kind of makes the deck much faster. And we got some sweet synergies here with Fling. We're only playing 3 because, as I said, ideally we want to be casting this to kill our opponent, in which case having multiples in our hand can be a liability sometimes. So we don't want to draw too many copies of this. Ideally, we want to just draw one copy of this and then cast it to kill our opponent. The rest of the deck is kind of a standard red aggro deck. We got Fanatical Firebrand, probably the best red 1-drop, legal in standard Pauper, all around great. Can start attacking on turn 1 because it's got haste, and if your opponent has some big creatures blocking the way, you can still put this card to use by tapping and sacrificing it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player, right? Lots of 2-drops have 1 toughness. You know, you might use it to finish off a 3 toughness creature if you like shock it and then sack the Firebrand. This card is just so flexible. Definitely want 4 of it in an aggro deck. We got 4 Honed Kopesh here. Can't sing the praises of this card highly enough. If you are playing an aggro deck in standard Pauper, you should probably have 4 Honed Kopesh in your deck. It's just such a good card. So 1 mana to play, 1 mana to equip. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. You can you know, put it on your attacking creature, attack with it, and then after combat, move it onto a blocker that you want to block with. You know, it's a non-creature spell, so it's going to trigger Firebrand Archer, and it's going to trigger Nimbleblade Kenra. You know, just a really great card. And if you have it on the creature that you're sacrificing to Fling, you know, Honed Kopesh just does it all. For Shock. Shock is Also a great card. 1 mana, deal 2 damage to target creature or player. Very, very cheap way to kill your opponent's creatures, especially if you're able to kill a 2-drop with this card. You're going to gain a little bit of tempo, right? They spent 2 mana to play their 2-drop. You spend 1 mana to kill it. That is an especially common line if you are on the draw, meaning you went second in the game, and your opponent, you just play a mountain on turn 1 and say go, your opponent plays a 2-drop, you shock it at the end of their turn, and then you play your 2-drop, and it's almost as if you took away their advantage of going first. Moving up the curve here, Lightning Strike, very similar to Shock. 2 mana, deal 3 damage to target creature or player. I get lots of questions about this. Yes, Lightning Strike is legal in Standard Pauper. It was printed as a... let me actually just pull out the new art here. It was printed as an uncommon in Ixalan. Ixalan is a standard legal set. So Ixalan is a standard legal set, and so it is legal in Standard, and even though it was an uncommon in Ixalan, it was a common when it was printed before, so therefore it is legal in Standard Pauper. So Lightning Strike, 3 mana, deal 3 damage to target creature or player. You can kill a creature with it, you can kill your opponent with it. Very flexible card, almost never a dead card, and that's what we want. We got our 2-drops here are both creatures that kind of trigger when we play spells. As you can see up here, we've got 20 spells in the deck that will trigger these guys. We got 4 Nimbleblade Kenras, 2 mana, 1/3. Not the greatest attacker before you buff it up, but it is very good at blocking. But, if you play a Hone Kopesh and equip it, all of a sudden this guy's a 3/5, which is a very, very large stats for a 2-drop. So this guy can get big real quick, especially with instant speed spells like Shock and Lightning Strike and Brute Strength and Fling. We'll talk about Brute Strength in a minute. So Nimbleblade Kenra can get huge. Even if it doesn't get huge with Prowess, it's a great blocker. So whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Can get huge. This is an important interaction to bring up. So if you cast Fling and you sacrifice Nimbleblade Kenra, the Prowess trigger will go on the stack, but it won't resolve before Fling checks for the amount. So you will not get the Prowess trigger from Fling if you sacrifice Nimbleblade Kenra. But Nimbleblade Kenra is still great with Fling because you can cast your other spells first and then sacrifice it to Fling to hopefully kill your opponent. Firebrand Archer, 2 mana, 2/1. Not as great of an attacker or blocker, but it does deal damage directly to the opponent, which is relevant. Again, we have 20 spells in the deck that are going to trigger this guy. So sometimes you might be able to attack with it. Having only 1 toughness means that a lot of things will hold it back, but this guy will chip in damage, and then it'll maybe trade for a card. And the last card in the 2-drop slot here is Brute Strength. 2 mana, instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. One of the most important things that you can understand to level up and get better at Magic is when to cast your instants. I've been talking with a lot of the students about this lately. You can cast your instants after your opponents declare blockers, right? So if you have your 2 mana open, and you have this instant in your hand, it's an instant. You can cast it at any time. So if you declare your attackers, you attack with all your creatures, your opponents block, then you can choose where you want to cast the Brute Strength after your opponent chooses how they want to block. If you cast Brute Strength before attacking, your opponent will know that you have Brute Strength, they will know which creature is big, and they will block accordingly. But if they don't know, you can catch them by surprise. So Brute Strength gives the creature trample, helps push through damage. It's an instant, so it triggers Nimbleblade Kenra and Firebrand Archer, and giving a creature +3 attack and trample. So let's set up a situation here. Let's say you have Nimbleblade Kenra, you attack, right? They might block with their 2/2, or maybe even a 2/3, right? They just want to prevent the damage. You can cast Brute Strength. It's going to trigger Prowess, so Nimbleblade Kenra is going to become a 2/4. Then Brute Strength is going to resolve, making Nimbleblade Kenra a 5/5, right? You're going to kill their 2/3, deal 2 trample damage, and then you can still cast Fling because your creature is still around. It still has the buff from Brute Strength until end of turn. You can cast Fling, sacrifice Nimbleblade Kenra, deal 5 damage, right? And that's just with 3 cards here. So this deck, it wants to get in early damage with its early guys and then use a big giant Fling to finish off the game. And Brute Strength plus Fling is a great combination to help finish off the game. So Brute Strength is very nice. Moving up the curve here, we have Thresher Lizard. 3 mana, 3/2. Thresher Lizard gets +1/+2 as long as you have 1 or fewer cards in your hand. This deck is very good at emptying its hand out. You know, the curve is very low. There's only 3 4-drops in the deck. So this guy is going to be a 4/4 quite often. There are a bunch of other good 3-drops in red, but I think that this one might be the best, considering that the deck is very good at turning on this ability, making it a 4/4, very big guy. And then the last creature in the deck is 4 Emberhorn Minotaurs, 4 mana, 4/3. You can exert it, which means it won't untap on your next turn as it attacks. So you choose that as you're declaring your attacker. You can exert it. And if you do exert it, it gets +1/+1 and gains Menace until end of turn. So it becomes a 5/4 with Menace. Menace means that it must be blocked by 2 or more creatures. If they only have 1 creature, they cannot block this. So if you attack with this, you exert it, right? They might block with 2 guys. You cast Brute Strength, trample over for some damage. If your Emberhorn Minotaur is still alive, you can still cast Fling, right? So Emberhorn Minotaur would be 5 with the exert, 8 with Brute Strength, right? If they don't block, then they just took 8 damage, and then you sacrifice it to Fling, they take 8 more. That's 16 damage in 1 turn with just 3 cards, right? So this deck is really just trying to end the game as quickly as possible. The last card in the deck, this is just a one of, is Hijack. 3 mana, gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. So basically, this means that you get to steal their biggest creature and have 1 turn to attack them with it. So not only is that creature not going to be able to block you, so you're removing a blocker for 1 turn, but you're also going to be able to hit them with the creature. Now, that is really nasty when you pair it with Fling, right? This is why this deck is called Mono Red Fling. It has a lot of synergies with Fling. So you steal their creature, you untap it, it gains haste, you attack them with it, boom, they take a whole bunch of damage, and you don't have to give the creature back until end of turn. So after damage happens, you can sacrifice the creature to Fling to deal more damage to them. Maybe you're killing a creature, or maybe you're just killing them, right? So we only have 1 Hijack in the deck, because Hijack is really at its best when your opponent is playing like medium-sized creatures, and not every deck out there is playing medium-sized creatures. And there's already a lot of spells in the deck. I don't really want to cut the burn spells or the pump spells, Brute Strength. There they are. So we're only playing 1 Hijack in the main deck, but we are playing the last 3 in the sideboard. So if you want to kind of move in on that Hijack plan, we have 3 Hijacks and 1 Fling here in the sideboard. If you want to transform into, a more combo-y deck, keep those Fling synergies strong. And then the last couple cards in the deck, in the sideboard rather, we got Magma Spray, which is very good against opposing small creatures. If you just want more copies of Shock, Magma Spray does a good job. Also, Magma Spray exiles the card that it kills. It can't hit players, but it will exile a creature if it kills it. So if you're playing against Unwavering Initiate or Sacred Cat, Magma Spray is very good at making sure they don't get to embalm it. Shatter kills opposing equipment. Dual Shot. If your opponent is playing lots of small guys with 1 toughness, Dual Shot is great. Destructive Tampering, destroy target artifact. It's just strictly worse than Shatter, so don't side this in if you were wanting to kill artifacts, but side it in for the second ability. Creatures without flying can't block this turn. If your opponent's plan is to just muck up the board, you side in this card. Boom, their creatures can't block. You kill them in 1 hit. And then, of course, the Hijacks and the Flings. So, if you like setting stuff on fire, killing your opponent as fast as possible, making your opponent play scared because they have to respect Fling, this is a very good deck for that. So, I guess last comment, we're playing 21 lands. We could probably get away with 20, but because of Thresher Lizard, we want to make sure that we're being able to empty our hand, and if we're mono screwed, it's much harder to do that. So we're playing one extra land than is normal in aggro decks in this format, but to kind of compensate for that, we're playing 2 Desert of the Fervent. It does come into play tapped. It does kind of slow us down if we have to play it as a land, but in the late game, if we're kind of getting mono flooded, it will be very happy to be able to cycle it. So playing a few more lands to help turn on Thresher Lizard, and buffering it with some cycle lands. This deck could actually probably get away with playing Sunscorched Desert. I think the version that Travis made had Sunscorched Desert. I didn't think about it until now, right? Because you're playing one color, you can get away with playing Sunscorched Desert, right? It just makes colorless mana, but when it comes into play, deals 1 damage to target player. So we're just going to go ahead and cut 4 mountains from the deck. Boom, Sunscorched Desert. And bada bing, bada boom. We got some more value out of our lands here. So, and we'll be sure to update... Oh, we'll be sure to update the text version as well with the Sunscorched Deserts. Alright, so... Thanks for stopping by. If you're a red player, definitely give this deck a try. As I said, you make your opponent play scared, make them respect your combat tricks, and make them respect your reach, right? Being able to kill your opponent outside of combat is called reach. So Shock, Lightning Strike, Fling, Fanatical Firebrand can even deal damage to an opponent. So, yeah, this deck, quintessential red deck, you should definitely check it out. So if you like our content, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to get more updates on Standard Pauper, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you're preparing for our May Scholarship Tournament, this is the #1 resource for Standard Pauper content. And we might do a gameplay video with this deck coming up. So if you like what we do here, you want to support Youth Magic on Oahu, you want to support Standard Pauper as a format, please consider becoming a supporter of our Patreon page. Voluntary subscription service, you choose how much you want to pay to support us, and you'll get benefits based on how much you donate. So, and no matter how much you donate, you'll always have access to our monthly expenditure report. So we're very transparent about how we're spending the money we're getting here from Patreon, to create awesome opportunities for the Youth Magic players here on Oahu. All right, thanks for stopping by. Hope you have fun setting things on fire with this red deck, and I will catch you later.